विन लाइफ लाइक ए वॉरियर। और आज मेरे साथ जो एक वॉरियर होंगे, बड़े ही स्पेशल वॉरियर हैं। जब हम बात करेंगे तो आपको ये समझ में आएगा। हमारे आज के जो वॉरियर हैं, ही इज ए पैरा कमांडो फ्रॉम स्पेशल फोर्सेस and he is the one who has served in subcontinent, not only in India but Sri Lanka. And in India, the all kind of militancy, insurgency he has seen, whether it is in Northeast or Kashmir, and including LTTE in Sri Lanka. He is the one who is awarded gallantry award by Government of India for his actions in Sri Lanka. And he has also been awarded with commendation cards for his exemplary service. Not only that, he is post-retirement. He is though he calls himself an accidental author or writer, but he has brilliantly come out with a best-selling 3 books, not 1, not 2, but 3 books, which are basically the combat novels, and it's worth reading. In addition to that, he has served as a ADC to 2 army chiefs, which is a rare feat, I must say. So with this very small introduction, because मैं ही सब कुछ बता दूंगा तो फिर आगे discussion क्या होगा, I welcome Major Abhay Sapru, Sena Medal. Abhay, welcome to the show, Win Life Like a Warrior, and you are a true warrior.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for the introduction, and very happy to be here talking to you.
Thank you, thank you. In fact, my viewers are very happy. They demanded कि सब Abhay Sapru को साथ में लेके आइए। मैंने कहा ठीक है, let me find out. So Abhay, in fact, I just know that gone through somewhere, read it somewhere. There was always a conflict at home. There were 2 schools of thoughts. Once, father being your army man, he wanted you to become an army man, join army. And mother, with the motherly love, wanted कि भाई बहुत फौज देख लिया, you live a happy civilian life. How did you overcome that conflict at home?
So you've read it correctly. My father was one of those hardcore soldiers, old Brit school.
I know. Who
believed if there is a profession, if there is a man's profession, there is nothing to beat soldiering. But he never forced it. तो दिखाया उनने फौज, और बड़े अपने तरीके से मुस्कुरा के ridiculing the other professions. जब बीच में बात करें तो क्या करेंगे सप्रू साहब, आप तबला बजाएंगे, नौटंकी करना चाह, you know, that kind of ridiculing the other professions to say, look, if I have respect only for one profession, बाकी आपकी मर्जी है. My mother was dead against it. And because there had been so much separation in the house, he was never there. And I also missed him as a father. So I was very clear that I will follow my mother. और कर्नल साहब जो बोलना है बोलते रहें, ये मजाक उड़ाते रहेंगे. I am going ahead to Delhi University to graduate, and the objective when I landed up in Delhi University was to try and get into the UPSC. उस जमाने में अभी भी मेरे ख्याल से फ्लेवर यूपीएससी का ही है दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी में, packed with Biharis who come there with a motive to get through the UPSC exams. तो पहुंच गया सर मैं दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी, और वहां पे जब मैंने इनको पढ़ाई करते देखा, some of my seniors who were sitting for their UPSC, it's shocking sir, shocking amount of effort. आप टेक्निकल एंट्री हैं, आपको पता है academic rigor is very different from physical rigor.
Yes.
A champion is a man who can do both.
Yes.
I've always had a lot of time for people who can do extreme stuff physically, and when it comes to applying themselves mentally, can put in the same amount of labor. अब मैंने जब इनको देखा, मैंने कहा ये तो नहीं हो सकता, 12-12, 13-13 घंटे मैं नहीं कर सकता. I had been a sportsman in school. I'd played cricket and javelin and, you know, athletics and stuff like that. तो मेरे ख्याल से awakening वहां से हुई. और उस जमाने में सर आपको तो बताइए, choices तो बड़ी limited थी. You could either get into a government job,
yes,
or you could join the tea plantation. If you came from small towns, tea plantation was and my brother joined the tea plantation as a planter. और हमारी तरफ से सर बहुत कम लोग जाते थे into what they called the box swallows, the corporate world. कलकत्ता में होता था, वहां से लोग ज्वाइन करते थे एंड स्टफ लाइक दैट। तो एमबीए शुरू हुआ था तब काफी। सो इट वाज मोर अबाउट सिक्योरिटी ऑफ जॉब देन सेल्फ एक्चुअलाइजेशन, कि मुझे सेटिस्फैक्शन मिलना चाहिए नौकरी में, रादर देन गेटिंग सिक्योरिटी ऑफ जॉब। तो अप्लाई कर दिया सर। पहले ओटीओ की कॉल आ गई, फिर आईएमए की कॉल आ गई। तो दोनों जगह मैंने जाके अपनी हाजिरी लगाई।
So how did this happen that OTA versus IMA?
सर मैथ्स में कमजोर थे, तो टू बी ऑन द सेफ साइड जीके और अंग्रेजी का पेपर दे दिया, और उसके बाद साइमल्टेनियसली नेक्स्ट जो आया एग्जाम उसमें जाके आईएमए का भी दे दिया। अब आईएमए वाज ऑलवेज डिजायरेबल बिकॉज मेरा घर, एज आई वाज टेलिंग यू, वाज abutting द टी गार्डन्स। जो आईएमए की बाउंड्री वॉल है और टी गार्डन स्टार्ट होता है, उसके बाद आप निकलिए तो वसंत विहार कॉलोनी आ जाती है। नाउ द डिजायर टू बी क्लोज टू माय पेरेंट्स वाज वेरी स्ट्रांग। उसकी कॉल आई नहीं, पहले इसकी कॉल आ गई। तो टू बी ऑन द सेफ साइड मैं चेन्नई मद्रास पहुंच गया, वो भी समर हीट में। उनने सर धुआं निकाल दिया, मतलब समर कोर्स इन द ओटीए इन दोस डेज, आई डोंट नो हाउ इट इज नाउ, दे कुड किल यू, द हीट वुड किल यू। बाकी तो सब चमक जाएगा, लेकिन हीट वाज फैंटास्टिक। फिर कॉल आ गई आईएमए की, तो वो उन बुद्धुओं में से है जिनने 2 साल प्लस ट्रेनिंग करी, बताइए, कमीशन होने के लिए। यहाँ लोगों को 18 महीने में परेशान हो जाते हैं, 2 साल प्लस करके आए 2 इंस्टीट्यूट से।
यूनिवर्स वाज प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर बीइंग कमांडो।
अब सर फायदा ही हुआ उसका। रनिंग कमजोर थी, ज्यादा ट्रेनिंग मिल गई, थोड़ी रनिंग इंप्रूव हो गई, नहीं तो प्रोबेशन क्लियर नहीं होता।
So how was the life in IMA then? Because
सर,
you reached.
अब देखिए सर, आईएमए 66 punishments.
My God.
66 punishments.
My God.
Till the instructors came to me and said, Sapru, behave yourself and pass out. Why do you want to get relegated? One more and you'll get relegated. In spite of this, that CSM बना रहा है कंपनी का। अब CSM कंपनी चलाए कि पनिशमेंट करे। अब मैंने कहा सर ऐसा है, या तो CSM बना लीजिए, पनिशमेंट माफ कर दीजिए, या पनिशमेंट करवा लीजिए और CSM, तो कंपनी तो नाले में जाएगी। मैं 3 बार रिपोर्ट करता हूँ पनिशमेंट के लिए। बोला नहीं, दोनों करोगे और घर जाना बंद कर दो। आधे से ज्यादा पनिशमेंट आती थी बिकॉज यू हैड दिस डिजायर टू जंप ऑफ द वॉल, गो होम एंड हैव अ मील। ये इनको पता था इंस्ट्रक्टर्स को कि ये लोकल सब भागेंगे घर, तो वो एम्बुश लगा के बैठे होते थे स्ट्रेटेजिक जगहों पे। तो पकड़े गए, फिर 6 दिन, फिर 8 दिन, ऐसे करते करते 66 पनिशमेंट्स हो गए। बहुत लंबा हो गया था। परेशान हो गया था कि ये मिलिट्री ट्रेनिंग करा रहे हैं कि पनिशमेंट की ट्रेनिंग करा रहे हैं मुझे।
Well, you mentioned about this being CSM, and I know CSM is a very responsible job for keeping the company under discipline, your juniors under discipline. So when the junior must be watching my CSM is already in punishment, how would you manage the company itself?
सर मुझे बड़ी शर्म आती है बोलते हुए कि लास्ट आई। जब लास्ट आई तो मैंने इनको बोला इंस्ट्रक्टर्स को, मैंने कहा यार क्या, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ फर्स्टली आई डोंट हैव द टाइम, 3 times I have to report. आप मेरी रिपोर्टिंग ले रहे हैं, मैं कंपनी की रिपोर्टिंग कब करूं? आप कहते हैं ट्रेन करो, मोटिवेट करो, मुझे तो आप पहले मोटिवेट करिए, तो मुझे तो आप पनिशमेंट देके रखते हैं। फिर आप मेरा अब सीएसएम को रगड़ा मार रहे हैं ऑफिस के बाहर क्योंकि कंपनी लास्ट आई है। बजरी ऑर्डर में वो बास्केटबॉल खिलाई जा रही है, 3rd टर्म मुझे गाली दे रहे हैं। मैंने कहा यार मैं तो, तुम चारों उससे मार रहे हो मुझे यार, पहले साले तुम लोग सुनते नहीं हो, ऊपर से ये मेरी पनिशमेंट करवाते हैं, फिर तुम लास्ट आते हो किसी चीज में, फिर मेरी क्लास लेते हैं, किसी असम काम नहीं कर रहा है, लास्ट आ रही कंपनी। तो इट बिकेम वेरी टफ, इट बिकेम वेरी वेरी डिमांडिंग फॉर मी। I was least interested in the appointment, but they just thought that I had that leadership quality and I was physically fit. Perhaps that is what they thought, or they saw some good in me and they wanted to reform me with responsibility. So I don't know what the motive was. बहरहाल केस ही था कि मेरी बहुत बुरे हाल हुए कंपनी चलाने में और पनिशमेंट करने में। 66 is a lot of punishment.
But I think this must have helped you in becoming a commando also.
सब बिल्कुल है, कोई जितना आप जिंदगी में कंफर्ट जोन से बाहर निकलेंगे ना सर,
Yes.
चाहे अपनी मर्जी से निकले तो अच्छा है, अपनी मर्जी के बिना भी निकलते हैं, बाय कोर्जन और बाय फोर्स निकलते हैं, तो भी आपको फायदा होगा. Hardship will always make you stronger.
No
So it helped. There is no doubt it must have helped me.
I believe one point of time that the punishment नहीं होता था, but still you were running with this Bajri order.
Sir, वो last term में they ease off the pressure. Third termers को थोड़ा last 3-4 months में छोड़ देते हैं ना free. Class खत्म हो जाती है, passing out का mood हो जाता है, which is when people are relaxing, enjoying themselves. At that stage, I used to, put some bricks, and I used to run through the tea garden. और पूरा पीछे वो एक नदी आती है शिवालिक्स के पास, वहां से सर्किट काट के बैक थ्रू द टी गार्डन्स आई यूज्ड टू रीच होम. वहां खाना खाया रात को, फिर टॉर्च लेके आई यूज्ड टू रन बैक द सेम वे. सो मेरे ख्याल से वो 10-12 किलोमीटर का सर्किट होगा. तो 20-22 किलोमीटर वो हल्के हल्के में अपना पिट्ठू लगा के ये 3 महीने वो किया मैंने. प्लस आई डोंट थिंक सो आई एवर शैम्ड एनी ऑफ दोज रन्स इन द एकेडमी. आई रियलाइज्ड वेरी अर्ली दैट आई एम वीक इन रनिंग. माय अपर बॉडी स्ट्रेंथ वाज देयर.
ओके.
तो वो जो होता है ना, वो पहले 5 लूंगा, उसको टच करो, वो पूरे दिन चलता रहता है, हर क्लास में चलता है वो. फिर कोई सोता मिला, बाहर निकलो, उसको टच करो, पहले 5, फिर पहले 5. आई यूज्ड टू पुट इन ऑल माय एफर्ट. तो अच्छे रनर्स जो थे एक्स इंडिया वाले, वो भाग भूग के आराम से रेस्ट कर रहे होते थे. बट स्लोली आई कुड सी दैट आई स्टार्टेड कमिंग इन द फर्स्ट 15, फर्स्ट 10, एंड I'd never sham. I've never sham. So I suppose all that effort must have helped.
Certainly, sir. In fact, what I see is that you had all the qualities of basically getting started from NDA itself. Because I have seen the NDA cadets, GC जो बन जाते हैं आके IMA में, they don't sham out from the taking punishments. They feel very happy once they are given punishment. They keep smiling, always keep smiling, and that is what those traits you had already, and you lived with those. Fantastic. But then, Abhay, this punishment aside, academy training aside, but volunteering for this special forces, again, it's a very courageous step right in the beginning, means from the academy itself. How this means, what was that thought process that you wanted to become only the commando or special force?
Sir, there are two reasons to it. One, my father was half Commando and half paras. He was from 3 para.
Okay.
So I had a parental claim to either 9 Commando or 3 para. 3 para, of course, there would have been a probation. उस ज़माने में normal para होती थी, अब तो SF है.
Yeah.
Then at some stage in the 3rd term, there was an instructor, Havaldar instructor,
Okay.
Rajinder, who turned up. He came straight from Sri Lanka. The unit was committed in Sri Lanka. He came to the academy as a weapons instructor. Tall Himachali, slim, good-looking man. And I was very impressed with him, his style of functioning. The rest of the instructors from the other units would scream, shout, punish you, send you running, rolling. And this man would just smile at you, challenge you with his eyes, And in the breaks, I would chat him up about things in Sri Lanka and stuff like that. And what he told me appealed to me. दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी का आदमी था सर, मैं डिसिप्लिन से वैसे ही परेशान था मैं. तो बोलता, आप सर कमांडो यूनिट में आ जाओ, ये कुछ सी इसका भी डिसिप्लिन ढीला ही है. पता लगा उसको भी ये पनिशमेंट ही करता रहता है. कभी कभी वो पनिशमेंट परेड पे आता था रिपोर्ट लेने के लिए. सो ही गॉट वेरी फॉन्ड ऑफ मी. तो ये सर कमांडो यूनिट में आओ, लंबे बाल रखो, दाढ़ी रखो, फ्री स्टाइल. हिज वर्ड्स वर फ्री स्टाइल सोल्जरिंग होती है, काम से काम है, यहाँ गेरू चूना नहीं करते हैं. आई लाइक व्हाट ही सेड. It appealed to me. Unfortunately, he died later in the northeast. I think he came in an ambush. या मेरे ख्याल से IED blast में बेचारा है. He got killed in action.
He was from which para?
He won paras.
Okay.
He was from my unit.
Okay.
Para. So I think at that stage I veered towards joining the then called parachute commando units. Okay. Now they are special forces. And also the second factor was कि हमने अपने वालिद साहब को, I told my father, ऐसे हो गया, अब तो फौज ज्वाइन कर ली कर्नल साहब, अब आपने तो करी नौकरी पैरा में, इन्फेंट्री में, मैं आपके एक स्टेप आगे जाऊंगा, तब तसल्ली हो जाएगी आपको. हाँ करिए आप देखें, what you'll do boy, let's see. So I said, all right, just to prove a point to you. The whole game was happening just to prove a point to my father. आपने डायरेक्शन अपने प्रोफेशन अपने करियर का ले लिया बाप को पॉइंट प्रूव करने के लिए, फिर रगड़ा खाने में घुस गए बिकॉज बाप को पॉइंट प्रूव कर रहे थे. तो वो वहां से फिर प्रोबेशन के लिए रिपोर्ट कर दिया. सर, unit was committed in Sri Lanka at that stage. They were running short. When I joined, the unit had lost 3 officers killed, 3 captains, senior captains, 5 captains wounded, and senior majors were going into action. तो पटन में तो यंगस्टर था ही नहीं, खाली हो गई थी पूरी, या इंजर्ड थे या डेड थे. So then I reported for probation to Nahan. उस तरीके से आ गए.
So तो जो फादर ने आपको बोला कि आप तबला बजाओगे या म्यूजिक बजाओगे, उससे आपने यू प्रूव द पॉइंट कि लो भाई मैं पैरा नहीं, पैरा एसएफ में भी आ जाऊं. Good, good.
He was a very strong influence. He was one of those very strong personalities. You don't have to force anything, you know, but you wanted to do things to please him. All of us do, sir.
Yes.
All of us want to please our parents.
These are some of the inspiring statements from whether maybe from parents or maybe from your instructor.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned that one was your father, another was your instructor who.
Absolutely. Absolutely. और किसी ने force नहीं करा. अभी देखिए temperament मेरा ऐसा है कि आप चिल्लाएंगे और जबरदस्ती करेंगे तो मैं बिल्कुल नहीं करूँगा. आप आगे तमीज से प्यार से मुझे समझाएंगे, लॉजिक देंगे, रीजनिंग देंगे, उसमें मैं आपके पीछे आ जाऊंगा. अब इनने दोनों ने नहीं, किसी ने चिल्लाया, धक्का दिया, जबरदस्ती, किसी ने कुछ नहीं किया. आराम से दोनों ने कहा कि यार ये ठीक लग रहा है, तो एंड नो रिग्रेट्स, यू नो, नो रिग्रेट्स.
रिग्रेट्स तो आर्मी में आने के बाद कोई होने का
मतलब
ही नहीं है.
व्हाट एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन,
what an organization. It makes you a man and
what an organization. Absolutely. Yes. What an organization, the profession of arms.
एक चीज अब है कि ये जो पैरा एसएफ का जो प्रोविजन होता है, बिकॉज आई हैव इंटरेक्टेड विद अदर पैरा ऑफिसर्स आल्सो, नॉर्मली आई फाइंड एवरीवन इज इंडिविजुअलिस्टिक और is a eccentricity, some eccentricity toward the goodness. He is a loner, or you can say he is a misfit in that one particular organization. He is a little eccentric, but he is passionate about soldiering. All these mix of things, how the probation makes you something which is सबका amalgamation करके एक ऐसा बंदा बना देता है जो टेलीबल है.
सर पहले तो ठीक कहा आपने. इट्स अ कलेक्शन ऑफ मिसफिट्स, रोमांटिक्स, एडवेंचरर्स, लोनर्स, यू नो, सेंट्रिक्स. और दूसरी चीज भी आपने ठीक कही कि स्पेशली व्हेन यू आर रिपोर्टिंग फॉर द प्रोबेशन, इफ you don't have passion, and the Urdu word, a beautiful word, is junoon.
Yes, burning desire.
अगर जुनून नहीं है सर तो प्रोबेशन आप क्लियर नहीं कर सकते. When you are hitting the probation, that is the only thing you should be thinking and doing or training for. ये ऐसी चीज है कि आप दो चीजें नहीं कर सकते कि मैं पढ़ाई कर लूं इस तरफ, मैं कुछ और कर लेता हूं साथ में प्रोबेशन. ये नहीं होगा. You have to be eating, breathing, sleeping probation. क्या होने वाला है probation? It's not a impossible thing to get through, but it certainly needs 100% of your commitment, because they firmly believed that it is not possible to know how much is enough unless one has experienced how much is more than enough. बड़ी अच्छी लाइन है ये. And they followed it to the hilt. They would push you to your extreme and they would see where you would crack. So ये जरूरी नहीं है कि आप हर चीज में फर्स्ट आ रहे हैं, दौड़ में भाग रहे हैं तो आप क्लियर हो जाएंगे. But they would see attitude, which was more important than talent. If you have the attitude, आपकी अगर फिजिकल फिटनेस थोड़ी कम भी है तो चलेगा. Because they were very clear कि यूनिट आपको ओवर अ पीरियड टाइम फिट कर देगी. आप ऐसी यूनिट में हैं जहां फिटनेस इज अ बाय वर्ड, आप खुद ही फिट हो जाएंगे, लेकिन आपका एटीट्यूड हम चेंज कर सकते. So they would then look around for that little chink in the armor. If they were happy with your attitude and they were happy with the basic fitness that you had. I mean, I can give you example of, you know, people who I conducted probation. एक जूनियर ऑफिसर कंडक्ट करता है प्रोबेशन और एक सीनियर मेजर होता है. तो जूनियर ऑफिसर हमेशा साथ होता है. तो एज अ जूनियर ऑफिसर कंडक्टिंग प्रोबेशन फॉर सम ऑफ माय जूनियर्स, एंड ही वाज अ पीटी ब्लू, एंड वो 20 किलोमीटर में रनिंग पुअर थी, अपर बॉडी ब्रिलियंट. पीटी 20 किलोमीटर स्पीड मार्च में, व्हिच यू नो इज विद 60 पाउंड्स ऑफ वेट. गर्मी, ह्यूमिडिटी इतनी ज्यादा हो रही थी, किसी को उस जमाने में ना ज्यादा पता था कि हाइड्रेशन क्या होती है. संतरा खिलाते थे वो आपको, संतरा और पानी पिला के तो आपको भगवाते थे वो. आजकल तो चीजें आ गई हैं. वो बेचारा 10 किलोमीटर बाद गिर गया, उसको बिठाया, वापस ले आए हम, बोला ओके 2 दिन बाद फिर होगा. 2 दिन बाद फिर हुआ, फिर गिर गया. गिर गया तो मेरे साथ सीनियर मेजर था, बिकॉज मैंने सीनियर मेजर को कहा ये तो फेल हो गया, तो फेल हो गया, खत्म हो गई बात, पार्टी ओवर. They must have seen something because they said, no, hang on. Rest of the attitude seems to be there. Maybe it was a bad day for him. So the senior major came along. This chap fell again. Dehydrated, fell again. And we were sitting in a jonga watching him. He got up, staggered, another 15, 20 steps, fell again. Got up, staggered, fell, started crawling. People are watching silently. वो क्रॉल करे, खड़ा हो, वो ड्रामा मच रहा है रोड पे. फाइनली वो काफी देर के बाद उसको बोला ओके गेट इनसाइड, एंड ऑफ कोर्स he cleared his 30, he cleared his 40. He probably became the fittest officer in the unit, the fittest officer, and he is still a very fit man. आपकी मेरी एज का है, मेरे ख्याल से 140 में 21 किलोमीटर करता है. Became the fittest guy. So all I'm saying is कि it's not all about physical fitness all the time. The attitude matters, and they will push you. उसके बाद sir, the unit has its own culture. Every SF unit you'll find a different culture. हमारे टाइम में जब 3 थी तब तो you could distinctly make out the culture. उसका एक का बड़ा desert culture होता था, 9 वालों का बड़ा एक OG टाइप का कल्चर होता था, 1 का एक बड़ा फ्री स्टाइल कल्चर होता था. So we would pull each other's legs on how our culture is. Then teams would have their own culture depending on the personality of the team commander. Yeah. So once you're there in the unit will mold you, and that goes for any unit, sir. Even infantry units, armored units, they mold you once you're in a good unit. तो ये थी प्रोबेशन जनरली होता है.
नहीं, that's true. And जो एक अंडरलाइन स्टेटमेंट आपने बोला है कि attitude is everything. There is a book, very beautiful book, Attitude is Everything. And it's not only special forces. Everywhere in the life, it is the attitude which matters. If you want to success in any field, unless you have an attitude toward being successful, you cannot. You can.
एक बड़ा अच्छा पोस्टर होता था सर हमारे एडजुटेंट के ऑफिस में. As you enter, I remember a young man entering and seeing there was a sheep pen with sheep in it and a guard dog outside, and it said, "In here, we either lead, follow, or get out of the way."
Yeah.
So, they trained you to be good followers. They trained you to be good leaders.
Yes.
They trained you that in case the man above you is knocked out in action, you should be in a position to immediately take charge. And some of those things, and all these things come with an attitude.
Yes.
If the attitude is not there, sir, SF unit में बड़ा मुश्किल है. और तभी यूनिट इनकी पॉलिसी इतनी अच्छी है कि आप अगर थक जाएं, you find that you cannot carry the weight anymore, you can go non-commando. Each of us have a parent unit. They will revert you back to your parent unit. No questions asked. Or if the unit finds that you are now shamming, you are not pulling your weight, बातचीत आ जाती है. इतना कॉम्बैट एक्सपीरियंस होता है लोगों को कि वो बातचीत पहुंच जाती है सीओ तक कि सर वो आपको भेज देंगे नॉन कमांडो. कोई no reasons asked, the authority is with the commanding officer. So that is why at any given time in a SF unit, you have a body of men who are trained to perfection, to muscle memory at times, and they can operate in all terrains. And that can only be done if you have people who have the attitude to put in 100% all the time. Very demanding job.
I know. Any situation you will like to share when this demanding thing happened in one para?
अरे सर, डिमांडिंग मैं तो आपको अपनी प्रोबेशन का बता सकता हूँ. बड़ी अनयूजुअल प्रोबेशन थी because the unit was committed there. But वो छोड़िए आप. I remember we came back. The unit came back from Sri Lanka, and they came back after nearly 2.5 years with all the losses and things like that. People came back. Their children couldn't recognize them. वो uncle बोल रहे हैं अपने बापों को. The unit had been away for a very long time. And I was coming back, and I thought maybe now there'll be 10-15 days. People will be told to go on leave. Relaxation होगी. 2.5 साल लड़ाई करके जंगलों से निकले हैं ये. I was shocked जब तीसरे दिन इनने बोला कि आप पीटी परेड पे आ जाइए. अच्छा, 3 दिन पीटी परेड हुए नहीं थे. मेरे ख्याल से we must have been back to base 15 to 20 days. When suddenly there was a conference, some orders had come for an operation back in Sri Lanka. Now, I don't know the background to it, but there was some talk about a paradrop on an airfield. And the morale immediately went down. So I remember the commanding officer calling JCOs and officers there and giving a little talk.
Pep talk.
Basically, he pep talk to sir, koi nahi, motivation koi nahi karta SF unit mein, because you are there by your own violation. Nobody's forced you. So you don't need to motivate anything, but he just thought he should clarify certain things.
Yeah.
So all he said was कि 250 साल पुरानी आपकी पलटन है. Fighting history is 250 years, right? We lost a company fighting in Italy against German paratroopers, and it was not a commando unit now. Then it's a commando unit now. We haven't asked for you people to come here. You have come on your own violation. Anybody who's not interested can leave now. Nothing will be held against him. But please start preparing your jump loads. And I don't want any sulking, any cribbing, any this thing. So all I'm saying is कि these are the pressures. For example, ये जो 5 आदमी अभी मरे हमारे यहाँ पे पुंछ में, I can actually imagine, because I've had these situations, the SF teams must be up there, up on the heights in the forest. There's going to be no rest now. The hunting teams are going to be out 72 hours, 96 hours. अभी फौज पीछे पड़ जाएगी.
Yes.
पीछे पड़ जाएगी. अब बाकी फौज तो कॉर्डन लगा के बैठेगी. जो रगड़ा है वो इनका है.
Okay.
इनका रगड़ा है. या तो ये चढ़ेंगे या चॉपर से गिरेंगे हाइट पे. और फिर ये they'll start now the search. Yes, thickly forested, raining, bad weather. 3 दिन 4 दिन ये चलेगा ड्रामा.
जब तक वो पकड़े नहीं जाएंगे तब तक चलेगा.
Sir, unless they have crossed the border and gone back, if they are this side, they are dead men walking.
Yes,
they are dead men walking. They will not be spared. If I know the Indian Army, I know पीछे पड़ जाएंगे. And I've been in some of these operations जहाँ 1-2 casualties हुई, फौज फिर पीछे पड़ जाती. सर, एक बार हमारा there was a post which was attacked. I mentioned it in my 3rd book. Assam Rifle Post was attacked, first time probably in the hinterland in India, and it was overrun. And the brigade commander went berserk after that. I was there with 18 men. तो एक बार मैं चढ़ा, मेरे ख्याल 4 दिन बाद उतरा नीचे. ना खाना ना पीना, बारिश ऊपर हो रही थी 12-13 हज़ार पे. And they just there is no question. There is no question now. We want blood. We want blood. So the situation could not answer as it was.
So after this commissioning, you straight went to, if I'm not wrong, straight went to the Sri Lanka when this OP-Pawan was there.
Correct.
And as a IPKF, you have to fight with the LTTE. वहाँ के बारे में बताओ. How was because it's a different terrain, different jungle, different people, different language. How did you familiarize and acclimatize to the situation to be productive there?
So, sir, I did my probation 4 days in Nahan. When I reported, they told me, we have just 4 days for you. In 4 days, we'll be able to see if you are cut out for us or not cut out for us. It doesn't mean that in 4 days your probation is over, but we will put you through such hell because we don't have time to waste. The unit is committed in Sri Lanka. हम क्वालिटी अपनी नहीं गिराएंगे। तो 4 दिन में आपको हम देख लेंगे सप्रू साहब आप में है या नहीं है। अगर है तो आपकी प्रोबेशन चलेगी श्रीलंका में बाकी की, और नहीं है तो आप चली जाइए, हमारा टाइम मत वेस्ट करिए। So you know, they butchered me for 4 days. Regardless of that, when I landed, the unit had already been in Sri Lanka for about a year and a half, 2 years. By then, the drills had been taped out, sir. By then, the initial casualties that all units suffered when we went in, that had come down considerably. And it had come down because by then we had understood how the LTTE was operating. So when the Indian Army landed up, what the LTTE did was, we took over all the posts from the Sri Lankan Army. And the LTTE promptly withdrew into their jungle hideouts. So they had huge camps in the forest of Alampel, Kokuville के पास, जो चारों तरफ इनके जो जंगल्स थे. And the infantry units had posts, जैसे यहाँ जैसे any counter insurgency की deployment होती है वैसे ही है. There were posts. Each post was supposed to maintain peace in its own area domination, patrolling, etc. What one para was doing was that we had teams attached to different divs. So there was a team operating under the div in Batikuloa. There's another team operating in Jaffna in that area. And so I had the opportunity of operating, except for Batikuloa, I had the opportunity of operating all over the island. Wherever there was an incident, there was area domination to be done. And a normal infantry unit or a convoy had been ambushed. They would drop us by chopper. We would get attached to the local unit there. We would load up with our food, ammunition, etc. And then we would step out for anything between 36 hours to 92-hour ambushes. You just went into the jungle and then you just... So it was more ambush operations. So that is the way we were operating. And it was a very difficult terrain. It was a difficult terrain because of what I remember as a young man, or what I remember, nobody was very sure of what they were doing there. And the fighting was very different. He was not going to face you. He would not engage you. Your trucks are going to get blown up. ID was a very dangerous threat. You hit their camps, the entire camp and the area around it would be mined, booby-trapped. So there was no engagement happening where you knew, like the Sri Lankan army later. Then the LTTE had their own defense line, which is where they went wrong. They went into conventional warfare. So you knew where is the enemy, here you are, you know what to do. This was a different kind of fighting. You didn't know if they fired at you in a village, in a civilian area, in a built-up area, who's fired, who's not fired. The forest and the jungles were terrible. They were thick forests. So like any guerrilla, he had the advantage over you. See, any guerrilla warfare, the guerrilla will always have an advantage. His numbers are less. He understands the terrain better. He has the ability to get support and can mix around with the civilian population. Therefore, in any gunfight or a firefight, the first man who engages is the guy who's going to get casualties. तो पहली गोली तो वो चलाएगा, तो अब उसमें कितने मरने वाले हैं, कितनों को लगने वाली है. It was a very difficult terrain, and plus, as I said, when you fight in Kashmir or you fight for your own land, एक जज्बा अलग होता है, एक जुनून अलग होता है, एक पैशन अलग होता है. अब यहाँ पे, for example, I recall hitting a empty camp in a place called Manor. वहाँ मुझे receipts मिली, medical receipts of a clinic in Rameshwaram. Picture के ticket मिले Rameshwaram के. Everybody knew that they have safe houses in South India, and their casualties are being treated there. So all this was filtering to the army, and they were questioning कि कर क्या रहे हैं यहाँ पे. एक तरफ तो India या RAW या whoever is supporting them, we've armed them, चलो वो तो पुरानी बात हो गई, लेकिन अभी भी इनके safe houses चल रहे हैं और यहाँ हमने लड़ा रहे हैं. तो क्यों लड़ा रहे हैं, तो वो थोड़ा सा क्वेश्चन आ जाता है ना फौज के दिमाग में. As a fighting soldier, if you start questioning, you're not fighting for your land.
Yeah.
You're in a foreign country. And it's not that the population loved us and said, great thing. No. So that little thing comes as a bit of a impediment in making you into a good fighting unit. But otherwise, sir, it was a fantastic experience. If you keep all the casualties that we suffered aside, and we suffered a lot. I mean, official claim is 1200-1300 log mare.
Yeah.
Official hai, plus 3,000 odd wounded.
Yes.
I don't know, could be more. But marte bahut the, lekin.
You have been part of this whole operation, and you have seen from a very close quarter, though we also got commissioned by then, and we keep hearing those stories of Pawan. You would throw some light from a close quarter of genesis of this entire Pawan.
So genesis so simple as that. In a nutshell, the Sri Lankans who had been on the island for many years, some during Chola times, some came during the British times for tea plantation labor, etc. And they were well settled in the Jaffna belt, Batikloa, Mannar, that area. And they were always treated as second-class citizens by the Senegalese, which was a majority. So friction had been happening for years. 1950 से after independence, इनकी friction शुरू हो गई थी. अब at some stage, the Sri Lankan army upped the ante and started some sort of a genocide. And there were some Tamil units which came up, political parties which came up, EPRLF, the Plot, LTTE was one of them. And a lot of refugees started coming into Tamil Nadu. So at that stage, the Indians decided that a better way to help the Tamils is to support them with weaponry, training, etc. So a lot of them were trained around in Tamil Nadu, in camps and stuff like that. Arms and ammunition was supplied by us to them. And they were told to go back and fight the Sri Lankan army. And then at some stage, I think this is 84, 85, I'm not too sure about the date. Rajiv Gandhi got into conversation with the president of Sri Lanka, Jayawardene.
Yeah.
Because he must have also realized that this is a no-end game.
Yeah.
The Indians will keep supplying arms, ammunition, and it's not going to end for the Sri Lankan army. So I think they got into a conversation, and a peace treaty was worked out. A 5-point treaty was worked out. At that stage, the LTTE commander, Prabhakaran, was the most aggressive, most pugnacious, demanding a independent state for himself. Usko bhi invite kiya, lekin usko bulaya nahi for the discussion. He was apparently put up at the Ashoka Hotel in Delhi. And after they had signed up between the two of them, they presented this program to them and said, oh, this is a peace treaty. And there was no mention, of course, of a separate state for the Tamils. And there was a clause where they had to disarm the Tamils. They had to lay down their weapons, etc. And at that stage, Prabhakaran turned around and said, I have not been consulted and I don't agree with this. And so he went back, and the Indians had decided and agreed that we will disarm them. So वो disarming के लिए पहुंचे as a peacekeeping force.
हमने ट्रेन किया उनको.
हाँ, आपने ट्रेन किया सर. वो बाकी उनके, I think they were also trained. Some of them were trained by the PLO also. Some of the members went across there. In fact, the suicide bombing which they started later, they picked up from the Middle East. हाँ, ये मिडिल ईस्ट में वो बेरूट में कर रहे थे, तो ये वहां से ये कॉन्सेप्ट लेके आ गए ये. लेकिन वो बाद में शुरू करा उन्होंने. उस जमाने में तो जब ये बातचीत चल रही थी बिटवीन जयवर्धने, वो 2 units were sitting in Palali, and these chaps used to come to the mess, बैठते थे, गप्पे लगती थी, ऐसी कोई दिक्कत नहीं थी. उसके बाद जैसे ये साइन हुआ, उसके बाद एक छोटा सा इंसिडेंट हुआ, ना छोटा सा, but 17 of them or 16 of them were caught by the Coast Guard and handed over Sri Lankan Tamil leaders. And the conversation happened where the LTT said, look, hand them over to us. You hand them over to the Sri Lankan army, they'll be killed, tortured and killed. For some reason, because the accord had been signed, the orders came that they'll be handed over to the Sri Lankan army. At that stage, they asked for a last meal to be served. Usme sabko cyanide capsules de di, and all of them committed suicide. Uske baad the LTT turned over completely, and then they decided कि ये जो आए हैं peacekeeping के लिए, ये peacekeeping नहीं होगी. Now we'll take on the Indians. So then they took on the Indians, and the whole plan was to take over Jaffna in 36 hours, and sub went for a 6 when they realized the resistance that they ran into. So it was bitter fighting to get into Jaffna. That's in a brief nutshell. But,
I know. It's it. But it gets quite an insight into that, what exactly happened, because the guys whom we train with the training and weapons and all, and our own army is fighting with the same soldiers, same tactics.
मेरी second किताब पढ़िएगा sir, उसको you'll enjoy it. It's on the IPK of my experience there.
Yeah.
But some of them were trained in up north in Chakrata.
EST.
हाँ, चक्राता में जो है ना अपना
establishment.
हाँ, वहाँ पे ट्रेन हुए थे. So as a young man, when I was joining the army, my father was also posted there, his last posting. इनकी बस आती थी सामान खरीदने, राशन खरीदने, Dehradun being the nearest town. My father would come for the weekend, so bus would come to drop him at the house. तो उसमें पर्दे वर्दे खींचे होते थे. तो एक साउथ इंडियन निकलता था, carrying my father's suitcase, टीका लगा हुआ ऐसे करके. तो नॉर्थ इंडिया में देहरादून में कहाँ उस समय मैंने साउथ इंडियंस दिखते थे. You could see कि distinctly different है.
Correct.
My father would say some excuse, canteen का contractor है इसलिए, Much later the India Today came out. वो picture है, खड़े हैं पहाड़ों में, खड़े हैं सबके सब. They were being trained there, the LTT leadership. तमिलनाडु में इतने कैंप्स थे इनके. तो यही चीज फिर फौज को लग रही थी कि कर क्या रहे हैं.
The father trained that guys, and the son is fighting.
He was certainly posted there. He was certainly posted there, and he knew what was happening. He didn't talk much about it. Much later, when that India Today article came out, he just mentioned they were extremely motivated people. We worked out a 9-hour program for them. Their political leader came and said, make it 13 hours. You're here to learn. And he said, I still remember, he said कि some of them didn't even know how to tie a shoelace. चप्पलों में घूमते थे श्रीलंका में. तो बोला वो जूते लेस बांधनी सिखानी पड़ती थी भैया. इतने but his last comment I still remember, those boys, some of those boys are good. In fact, some of them are good enough to join my own unit. Third parachute. For him, God's own battalion was third parachute. There was no other battalion better than third para. Some of them were good enough, which was a very high compliment coming from the colonel. Some of them were good enough to join my own battalion. And when I came back, I remember we were sitting and having a drink, and he said, how was the experience? So I said, I lost a lot of people, colonel. A lot of good men before their time. And I recall he smiled and then raised a toast to the Tamil boys. Serves you bullies, right? Then the boys sort you out. So I don't know if he trained them, but he was there. He was posted there. He was directly involved in training. I don't know. Perhaps was.
That Tamilian or that contractor, which so-called contractor, was he Prabhakaran only?
सर अब मेरा भाई कहता है कि मैंने प्रभाकरन को देखा है. मैं तो नहीं देखा. मैंने तो जो आते थे बाकी काडर के. So I don't know. My brother claims that he's seen Prabhakaran at the house. So I don't know. I said, are you sure? He still insists कि I've seen Prabhakaran. वो छुट्टी पे आया हुआ था, वो भी कॉलेज में था. छुट्टी पे आया हुआ था. तो जो इंडिया टुडे की, I still remember इंडिया टुडे की वो फोटोग्राफ अभी आप निकालिए नेट पे, तो आप सब खड़े हैं. Prabhakaran and everybody standing with the background of the hills. And I remember he pointed it out. He said, this man was there. And then that is how we went to the colonel. When my brother said कि ये आया था, तो then we went and accosted him and said, ये क्या है colonel साहब? Canteen contractor, ये क्या कहानी निकली कुछ इंडिया टुडे में? तो किसको पता था प्रभाकरन कौन है उस जमाने में? He's just a tiny unknown man. So he insisted. I don't know. But strange. Look at this, and the father-in-law, and then the son lands up there to fight, his former students.
Yes.
Very strange.
Yeah, it's a dichotomy of life.
Okay.
Yes. उसके बाद अभय, you happen to move to J&K, or your unit happened to move to J&K? How?
Sir, I went back and I did my usual mandatory courses, which is your parachuting course, your VIOS, your commando course. And then I went for Bajrang, which was against the Ulfa.
Yes.
When the army rule was launched in Assam, I landed up, a team flew down to Assam, Tejpur, and we were operating there against the Ulfa. Very low-grade insurgency thi. Matlab, if I tell you, I remember we got he was the publicity secretary, fairly senior Ulfa man of the Sonitpur district. तो कुछ इंटेलिजेंस मिली, उसको पकड़ लिया, उसको लेके आ गए कैंप में, और वो रोने लग गया। अब यहाँ पे वो हार्डन जाट सरदार, मतलब श्रीलंका के बैकग्राउंड के, अभी तो इंटरोगेशन शुरू भी नहीं हुई और आंसू निकल रहे हैं। तो अब वो बेचारे वो कुछ नहीं करते, वो मार खाया क्योंकि वो रोने लग गया। अब वो जाटों को, सरदारों को गुस्सा आके बोले, यार 2000 मील हिंदुस्तान की सरकार हमें जहाज से लेके आई है कि मिलिटेंट हैं असम में, उल्फा वाले हैं, मुझसे लड़ने के लिए। अरे भाई तो रोने लग गया है यार, अरे रो किस ले रहा है, उसको मार पड़ने लग गया। मैंने क्यों, कहता साहब कैसा मिलिटेंट है ये, they just lost all respect for him and he was getting thrashed because he was crying. मैंने कहा रो रहा, कहता इतनी दूर ले आए सब लड़ाने के लिए। अरे बैठे थे नान में आराम से, तो ये देखो, ये लौंडा है, ये कॉलेज का क्या है, सेक्रेटरी है, क्या है, भाई तू रो क्यों रहा है, तो कभी छुआ नहीं है हमने। तो it was very low grade insurgency. And my brother used to be there in a tea plantation. He was a planter there.
Okay.
And he had terrible stories to tell. He was at a place called Misa, tea gardens है, वहां आते थे।
I had a tenure in Tejpur.
आपने करा है तेजपुर में, तो Misa and that belt. तो वहां आके उसकी गाड़ी छीन ले, उसके घर पे बैठे हैं। मैंने कहा यार हैं कहाँ भाई तुम, हम आए हैं इतनी दूर, मैं खुद उसके गार्डन पहुंचूं सिविल कपड़े में, मोटरसाइकिल लेके, कि कहाँ है। कहते यार तुम तो चले जाओगे और मैं मरूंगा, सब देख रहे। And the poor chap had to leave his job finally, and then he got into tea brokerage and tea tasting and moved to Calcutta. And he complained to my father. He said खुद तो आ गया यहाँ पे, 100 लोग लेके पीछे बंदूकें लेके इधर उधर थप्पड़ मार रहा है लोगों के, और ये सारे देख रहे हैं मुझे। And he's a big man, 6 feet 2 inch, fair, Kashmiri looking chap. कहता है यार I'm a marked man, I'm a dead man because of this guy. Your elder son is creating mayhem here at my expense. अब मुझे चिट्ठियां आ रही घर से कि तुम माँ की मेरे की क्या कर रहे हो, अखिल को बचाओ, ये करो, तुम उसको मत इन्वॉल्व करो इस चीजों में। मैंने कहा मैं क्या इन्वॉल्व करूं, खुद ही आता है मारपीट करने के लिए। उसको भी एक्साइटमेंट हो रही है, 22 साल का लड़का है वो भी, एंड दे हैव बीन बुलिंग हिम, नाउ ही इज गेटिंग अ चांस टू स्क्वायर अप। तो ही एसएमईज बोलता था, तो टीम कमांडर बोलता है इसको बुलाओ यार थोड़ा सा इंटरप्रिटेशन के लिए, इंटरप्रेट करेगा हमारे लिए। फिर वो इंटरप्रेट करने लगे, फिर वो कपड़ा पहन के हमारे साथ रात को घूमने लगे पिकअप पे। तो मैंने कहा यार तुम कहाँ, तुम अपनी चाय का बगान में जाओ, तुम कहाँ घुस गए हमारे साथ, हम तो आएंगे, यहाँ चले जाएंगे कल। वही हुआ कि हम तो आए, हमने जो करना था करा, हम चले गए वापस, ये वहां फंसे। तो काफी कंप्लेंट गई घर, ये मैं अगर मर गया तो ये अभय की वजह से होगा, मेरी वजह से नहीं है, इसने मुझे गलत चीजें सिखा दी है।
So means he voluntarily got involved in this or what? Means
मिलने आता था भाई है। अब शाम को हम बैठे थे गोल्फ कोर्स के पास, पायनियर कंपनी थी वहां अटैच थे, सब यंगस्टर्स। इस बेचारे के पास कोई कंपनी नहीं टी गार्डन में, तो अब वो आता था बेचारा मिलने। तो जब आता था तो उसको बोलते थे यार तंबू में कोई बैठा है, लेके आए हैं किसी को, तो जरा बात कर लो यार। तो उसके आंखें पट्टी पहनी हुई है उसने, इनको ले जाते थे अंदर, पूछो यार एसएमई में ये क्वेश्चन है हमारे। फिर अब रात रहता था हमारे साथ, तो कहाँ जा रहे हो, देखिए वो एक्साइटमेंट सडनली, कि वो डिनर खाया ही नहीं कि सबके सब ने अपनी पिस्टलें लगानी शुरू करी, कोई कुछ कर रहा है, कोई यू नो द एक्साइटमेंट, द बज ऑफ द टीम गोइंग आउट, वो सिविल गाड़ी निकालो, रेडियो सेट रखो, पिस्टल रखना अंदर, वो ले लिया, ये ले लिया, तो कहाँ जा रहे हो, कहाँ जा रहे हो? तो जा रहे हैं यार, कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन है, निकल रहे हैं, तो बैठ यहाँ पे, आ रहे हैं वापस, नहीं मैं भी चलूंगा।
ओ
चल ले यार, बैठ जा, तू भी बैठ जा। अब 22 साल का आदमी बेचारा, उसको भी एक्साइटमेंट की जरूरत है, तुम भी बैठ जाओ, घूम लो तुम भी हमारे साथ, चलो। तो घूम लिया, घूम। अब उतनी तो फोरसाइट है नहीं बच्चे के अंदर कि भैया सोचें कि इसके बाद ये तो चले जाएंगे। आपको नौकरी करनी है वहां पे।
Oh, that is the case. If I'm not wrong, I read somewhere that he was also keen to join forces, but you also dissuaded him कि भैया मैं अकेला काफी हूँ।
नहीं सर, वो तो he was a mountaineer. He's a very keen mountaineer in some serious mountains, and he was very keen कि ये इसमें क्या, तो 9 पैरा जाऊंगा, because we knew कि 9 पैरा में it's mountain warfare, तो 9 पैरा जाऊंगा। तो एक दिन ये मेस आए, यंगस्टर था, कॉलेज खत्म करके, he was thinking of joining the army, so he came calling on me to Nahan, देहरादून Nahan is a 2-hour run। तो वहां शाम को मेस में पार्टी चल रही थी, तो सीओ था, बाकी अफसर थे, अब सीओ साहब बात कर रहे हैं, जैसे होता है सीनियर मोस्ट बात करते हैं, बाकी सब खड़े रहते हैं। अब खड़े हैं, करीब चल रही है शराब, थोड़ी देर में ये बैठ गए, तो मैंने इशारा करा, मैं भी लेफ्टिनेंट हूँ, तो मैंने इशारा करा खड़े हो जाए, तो खड़ा हो गया बेचारा। वो मेरे ख्याल से पार्टी चली करीब 1:30 बजे थे या 2 बजे तक रात को, और सारे मेस के बाहर पे खड़े हैं। ये 3 बार बैठा, 3 बार इसको मैंने कहा खड़े हो जाए, सब खड़े हैं तो कैसे बैठ सकते। चौथी बार मैं देखा ये गायब हो गए बाहर से, तो मैं गया मेस के बाहर, वो पीछे कुछ सोफे लगे होते थे वरांडे में, वहां बेचारा बैठा सिगरेट पी रहे थे। तो मैंने कहा यहाँ क्या कर रहे हैं? कहता है यार ये है फौज, ये है कि मैं बैठ नहीं सकता। मैंने कहा ये यही है। अब जब सीनियर मोस्ट नहीं, जब सीओ साहब खड़े हैं तो आप कैसे बैठ सकते हैं? कहते ये कौन सा रूल हो? मैं कहा यार मेरे पास टाइम नहीं है यहाँ पे तेरे साथ बहस करने का, अब मैं तो फंस गया हूँ, अब आप सोच लीजिए। कहता है मैं नहीं करूंगा ये सब काम, यहाँ खड़े हैं तो खड़े। अरे बैठ गया तो क्या हो गया? मैंने कहा आप जाइए घर पे रिपोर्ट करिए और बता दीजिए कि आपके फंडे क्लियर हो गए, और आप सोचिए क्या करना है, आपने टी गार्डन जाना है, क्या करना है। उनके फंडे 2 मिनट में क्लियर हुए, एक ट्रिप से। उसको समझ ही नहीं आया बेचारे को। कहते यार बैठ गया तो क्या हो गया?
Wonderful story.
So one mess function broke him completely. And I said, good for you. Now I mean, good for you, yaar. Good for you. Thank me. हंसे होते कहीं आप तुम साले।
These are the real life experiences, and so true. In fact, sometimes don't you remember Abhay, when you get little senior major sergeant, you feel like यार ये जनरल साहब खड़े हुए हैं और हम भी अननेसेसरी खड़े हो, तो कोने में जाके चुपके से बैठ जाते हैं।
बिल्कुल। और तंग आ गया आदमी, सुबह पीटी करनी है। हमारे तो सर पीटी माफ नहीं होती, पीटी माफ नहीं होती, कुछ हो जाए। कहावत थी पलटन में, जिस दिन पीटी कैंसिल होती है 3 दिन आदमी की जिंदगी बढ़ती है, ये कहावत थी। मतलब अब भागते हैं जोर से, मतलब देयर इज नो मर्सी। अब आपको 2 बजे तक शराब पीनी है, 3 बजे तक शराब पीनी है। How are you going to do justice tomorrow morning with men who have gone to sleep early? Everybody taking off when it comes to running. So हमें यही होता था कि यार ये पीटी खत्म करें किसी तरह। But yeah, it's tough. The mess parties can be quite a pain.
So after this Northeast, I had you had some stint in this Burma border also.
Sir, after that I came back and I was picked up as to set up the security for General Rodriquez. So from setting up his security, because he suddenly landed up in that Zulu category, Khalistan movement था, वो चल रहा था उस ज़माने में, तो he came under Zulu category. So the army said we will provide the security. So the manpower used to be rotated between 9, 10 and 1, and I set up his security, and then I subsequently was passed on to General Joshi, handing over में. तो उसके बाद जब मैं यूनिट गया वापस, तब टीम मूव टू द नॉर्थ ईस्ट फॉर ट्रांस बॉर्डर ऑपरेशंस. उस जमाने में कैंप वैम्प काफी हो गए थे. तो as far as the north is concerned, sir, the army has been crossing over. ये तो अभी इन्हें पिक्चर बना दी after this raid, but with the understanding of the Burmese government, incursions into Burma used to happen. Not very deep, but जो आसपास वाले camps थे उनमें होती रहती थी. So we were then located in Masimpur with responsibility for trans-border operations. So वो खत्म करा stint, फिर वापस आए, वापस भी नहीं आया सर, वहीं से फिर posting आ गई to raise a RR commando unit.
Yes.
And that was, by the time I finished that, I had done nearly 4 years non-stop in combat. That broke my back. And that broke my motivation. I said, यार 4 साल को मैं World War II लड़ने आया हूँ यहाँ पे, कि मैं ही लगा हुआ हूँ इंडिया की, मतलब इंडिया की रिजर्वेशन मैंने ही करनी है क्या? 4 साल हो गए यार, पीठ खराब हो गई मेरी, अब मैंने काम नहीं करूँगा. So that was one of the reasons. But yes, I was there and we did go across. We hit a camp in Burma, very large Naga camp. There was a brief exchange of fire, and of course, then they emptied out the. उनका बड़ा clear है. If you catch a Naga who happens to know a particular camp, within 24 hours they clear up the camp. They know कि अभी फौज आएगी, तो 24 घंटे में वो camp खाली हो जाता है. But it was an eye opener to see the size of the camp. There was a badminton court, there was a basket, all under the canopy of the forest. Thick teak trees, huge teak trees, old. 1000, 2-2, 3-3 हजार साल पुराने वो पेड़ होंगे. गर्थ होगी उनकी 15-15 फीट की. और उसके नीचे क्वार्टर मास्टर स्टोर, चर्च, बैरिक्स, वेरी ऑर्गेनाइज्ड. और वो बड़े बैम्बू होते हैं, उस कटी हुई वाटरफॉल था, वहां से पूरा पानी का चैनल, तो हर का कमांडेंट का छोटा सा कॉटेज, and you could see nothing. The canopy was so thick of the forest, nothing could be seen, and under that you have this enormous camp.
It must be the beautiful sight to see.
Sir,
as a nature.
नहीं sir, it was if you can ignore the discomfort.
Yes.
These are not very. They're rainforests, sir.
Yeah.
So ये rainforest is not a very nice place at night.
Yeah.
Comfort of a room is fine, but रात को हल्के हल्के पानी ड्रिप करता रहता है, बारिश पड़ती रहती है. Oh, creepers, vines, all sorts of insects. इतनी बड़ी वो leeches हैं. So especially when you're carrying load and weight on. And I remember रात को there's a monkey called the gibbon. वो किसी को पता नहीं था, वो monkey रात को आवाज निकाल. It makes a sound like a human.
Yeah.
It laughs.
Okay.
और वहाँ पे टेंशन हो गई सडनली कि यार ये कोई मैसेजिंग हो रही है, मिलिटेंट्स वापस आ रहे हैं, दे गोइंग टू काउंटर अटैक और व्हाटएवर. मच लेटर आई रेड अप कि इट्स कॉल्ड अ गिबन. एक सेंचुरी भी है मेरे ख्याल से नॉर्थ ईस्ट में. अब इट्स अ प्रोटेक्टेड स्पीशीज. बट that was and then another operation into another country, but that was a brief stay for me. The team stayed back and I was pulled in for this raising thing.
Okay. In fact, Masimpur, I think that time must be again the 57 DIV, because I joined the 57 DIV when it moved from Masimpur to Limakong, near Imphal. And I had a tenure in Limakong. I was OC1 there. 57 DIV is again it's a DIV on the move always.
हाँ सर, कुछ ना कुछ. और उस जमाने में तो नॉर्थ ईस्ट काफी एक्टिव था.
Yes.
Up to things have quietened down, it was very active in those days.
Yes.
And something or the other was always happening. I remember coming back from this particular operation, 36 hours or 48 hours, we'd been constantly on the move, and humidity is terrible.
Yes.
So we were coming back, we finished the operation, we were coming back, हमें रास्ते में hijack कर लिया in a place called where in World War II the para brigade Shangship.
Okay.
Para brigade, World War II the para brigade fought the Japanese there. और ब्रिगेड कमांडर थे. रात का टाइम था, 10:30-11 बजे. लोगों की आंखें बंद हो रही थी. 48 आवर्स से लोग सोए नहीं थे. वहाँ ब्रीफिंग रूम में ब्रीफिंग शुरू हो गई और वो some 8 people from a Madras battalion had been ambushed and killed. And the brigade commander wanted to, suddenly somebody told him कि यार 2 टीमें 10 पैरा की टीम भी थी, 2 टीमें यहाँ घूम रही हैं आप ही के इलाके में. And because we report straight to the div, you know, a lot of local people don't know, local commanders don't know that. हाईजैक करके ले गए हमें अंदर, बोला एक और ऑपरेशन है, आप तैयार हो जाइए. Anyway, that's a different story. वहाँ कमांडर साहब को कंट्रोल करना पड़ा, बदतमीजी हो गई. वहाँ कोर्ट ऑफ इंक्वायरी की बातें होने लगी, कोर्ट मार्शल की बातें होने लगी, because you know, we told our team commanders we can't go, we are not in a state to go. 48 hours people have been working, walking in this humidity with no food, no this thing, and now you want to launch us again at night. So the commander got very worked up, very worked. He had a crisis on his hand, and he's giving a direct order, and 2 team commanders are saying no. तो तमाशा मचा दिया उसने बिल्कुल कि इसका तो हाँ बेल्ट उतार दूंगा मैं, ये तो this is insubordination. Deputy, please note, you see there is insubordination in an operational area. They are saying no to a direct order. Yes sir, I want a court of inquiry and court martial proceedings against this man. But these are the pressures, ना सर, ये तो ड्रामे जब yeah, these are the situations where you see people get sacked, people.
Yeah. So then Kashmir must have been, now it's a variety of things we must have gone through. Kahan Sri Lanka, kahan this Assam, and then Burma, and then finally landed up in Kashmir, which is altogether a different ball game. And that too for raising it. And raising, I can understand, it's a humongous task. How did you cope up with that?
Sir, raising, एक तो होती है normal raising, एक होती है ये, it was supposed to be a very secret project. I think it was General Joshi's pet project. It was called the Son of the Soil concept. It had been tested elsewhere by the Selous scouts. The Israelis have done something like this. Basically, they picked up Kashmiri Muslims from the Jackali battalions. They picked up Dogras from the Dogra battalion. They threw in some paratroopers, and then a handful of about 30 odd from the parachute commando units of special forces. The commanding officer himself were 2 officers, and then there were a couple of JCOs and men. Then a nucleus of paratroopers, then Dogras, and the whole objective was that here are locals who clearly will fight better for their state, will be in a position to garner intelligence, surrenders. अब ये नहीं किसी ने देखा कि एक हिस्टोरिकल बैकग्राउंड है यहाँ पे. The Kashmiri's arch enemy is the Dogra. And it's not easy to put people together, especially when militancy is at its peak. I mean, we had people who had cousins and uncles who were still militants in the unit. The people, most of the units were discarding and sending to these new raisings, RR raisings, were reading entries, were all troublemakers. So putting them together, training them to operate like an asset unit, are not easy at all. You know, the usual nonsense. फरीद को LMG मत दो, उसको दे दो, कान भरेगा कोई कान यहाँ से भरेगा, कुछ बोलेगा, फायर जल्दी खोल दिया. So all those issues kept up. But in spite of that, the unit had a good record. We did manage a lot of kills, surrenders, etc. But yes, putting them together and commanding, not only us, sir, forget this composition of the men. That is what made it so volatile as a body of men to be commanded. Anybody who raised an RR unit, you go out and ask. He will tell you that it was the worst. I remember going for an operation to a place called Thatri. Doda के आगे है. और वो क्वार्टर गार्ड उन्होंने बना रखा था, एक RR यूनिट थी, जाटों की. I don't want to name it. और उस क्वार्टर गार्ड कहता, वो मेजर साहब मुझे बोलते हैं कि यार अब जगह नहीं है, हम एक और घर ले रहे हैं क्योंकि क्वार्टर गार्ड भरते चले जा रहा है. गार्ड बदतमीजी करते हैं, जवाब दे रहे हैं, कोई जाना ही नहीं चाहता है. डिसिप्लिन प्रॉब्लम, सारे वो बदमाश पार्टी भेजी भी लोगों ने उठा उठा के, nobody had any loyalty, and you got to know your men. Combat is such a thing.
Yes.
It's like a team sport. It's like
Yes,
football.
yes.
It's like if you cannot work together, if that faith and trust
Yes,
is not built up,
yes,
and it is built up over time
yes,
by doing things together, doing hard things together. बार में बैठ के ड्रिंक पीने से नहीं आपके अंदर आएगी ये चीज. You have to go through hell
yes.
before that trust is built up, where you are prepared to die for another man. अब आप कहाँ से, कोई 17 जाट से, कोई 16 जाट से, कोई 13 जाट से, कोई आमड का डाल दिया बीच में, पता नहीं कहाँ से लोग आए हुए थे, क्यों लड़ेगा वो?
और वो भी सब मोस्ट इनडिसिप्लिन काइंड ऑफ थिंग.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. जिस सीओ को आप बोले कि 30 आदमी निकालिए, उसने 30 निकाले अपने ढूंढ ढूंढ के, उसको मिल गया मौका, उसने बिल्कुल फर्स्ट क्लास 30 निकाले. जिसकी रेडिंग एक थी, जो लेट आया छुट्टी से. नॉर्मल इन्फेंट्री यूनिट्स में तो थ्रेट था कि तुमने गड़बड़ करी, डिसिप्लिन ठीक कर लो, नहीं तो आरआर में भेज लो. और डरते थे लोग आरआर में, बिकॉज insurgency, militancy was at its peak. That is where you needed your drills perfect. You needed, good soldiering to survive, to fight. And here you are sending a bunch of people, trying to put them together at the last minute, trying to lead them into combat. But आज देखिए आप आरआर को, कमाल है सच. मतलब for my third book, for all my books I've gone back to my old hunting ground to revive memories so that I can write a book, which is, for my third book I went back where I'd had an incident, which I mentioned in my third book, in Bhadarwa and beyond. And it was incredible. रोडें चल रही हैं, मैं उनसे पूछ रहा हूँ लड़कों से, the youngsters standing there, especially where this post was attacked, and then I was told to climb up, and I spent 48 hours on that 12,500 feet mountain. And I said, यार यहाँ से कभी ऊपर गए हो? बोला हाँ, गाड़ी लेके चलते हैं. मैंने कहा आपको आइडिया है मैं कितना टाइम लगा था मुझे 30 kg वेट लेके, आरएल लेके, रात को उसको चढ़ने में, और ऊपर गुज्जरों की गाड़ियां हैं, और कहता अब तो रोड जाती है सर, वहां से रोड जाती है, यहाँ से रोड जाती है. मैंने कहा those are very tough days of soldiering, very hard days of soldiering. Things have improved considerably. Lovely locations हैं इनकी, TVs लगे हैं, barracks हैं. They are now like any good infantry units.
Yes.
And some of them are being sent on the LC now. They're doing infantry role. They're very good units.
Yes. They are well-oiled machine now.
Correct. But taking time.
But उस टाइम की सोल्जरिंग जो आपके टाइम थी, वो भी एक यूनिक तरीका था हैंडल करने का. एंड आई थिंक सम ऑफ द इंसिडेंट व्हिच यू हैव मेंशन्ड इन योर बुक्स आल्सो, you may like to share with our viewers interacting with that militants of Pakistan and
सर. सो ये कोई भी उस जमाने में जो था सर, वो विल टेल यू कि योर रेडियो सेट, छोटे वाले रेडियो सेट थे, इंटरसेप्ट मोड पे लगा होता था. इट वाज लाइक अ क्रिकेट कमेंट्री. मोमेंट यू क्रॉस स्पेशली इनटू लोलाब, जहां माउंटेन्स क्लोज हो जाते थे, राजवाड़े, लोलाब, you could hear them talking, you could speak to them if they were in a mood, and if you were polite. आपने अगर आवाज ऊंची करी और गाली दी तो आपको इमीडिएटली बोल देगा कि मुजाहिद को गाली देनी इजाजत नहीं है, आप गुस्से में लग रहे हैं फौजी भाई, इजाजत दीजिए, बात नहीं करेगा. अदरवाइज आप बात करिए. अगर उसके बाद टाइम में बात करते थे, सारे बात करते थे, उसमें कोई बड़ी बात नहीं. So I had a lot of conversation. I would do it only to try and get into their head, try and understand why is the guy here, what does he think about us. So it gave me a fair idea. But ये एक दो मैंने किसी और पॉडकास्ट में भी I mentioned some of these, but I'll tell you, I was climbing once रजौरी की तरफ, कंडी एक जगह है. तो the first instance of ये, that is the area we are talking, बफलियाज, जहाँ ये भी हुआ ना, ये पुंछ ऊपर है.
yes,
बफलियाज,
बिम्बर गली एंड
हाँ ये ऊपर है. नीचे की तरफ आइए तो रजौरी है, रजौरी की डेप्थ में आप आइए तो कंडी है, बफलियाज, सोरनकोट, ये इलाके हैं.
सोरनकोट वाज द हॉटबेड ऑफ मिलिटेंट.
तो इसको फौज ने टच नहीं किया था. ये क्या था, इट वाज अ ट्रांजिट कैंप फॉर देम. दे वुड क्रॉस ओवर, दे वुड कम देयर, वन लॉट वुड क्लाइंब एंड यूज द ओल्ड मुगल रूट, शोपिया में जाते थे, लैंड करते थे. एक लॉट नीचे से कंडी, गुलगुलाबगढ़ होके डोडा के लिए जो ऑपरेशनल एरिया था उसमें पहुंचते थे. बाद में फौज ने जाके इनको डिस्टर्ब किया and then they started hitting them. But the first incident and the first kill, I think 31 RR got it when we were there. But I remember climbing this place called Gun Hill. ऊपर है, काफी ऊंचा पहाड़ है. उसको चढ़ा था. Three conversations I remember distinctly. एक तो कोई पता नहीं वो कैसे कनेक्ट हुआ. वो there was a man trying to pacify a woman. अभी लैंडलाइन कैसे कनेक्ट करने लगी उसके साथ, क्योंकि मोबाइल थे नहीं, मुझे आज तक नहीं समझ आया. और उसको बोल रहा था कि मैं तुम्हारे बैंक के अकाउंट में पैसे जमा करा दूंगा. और I couldn't hear the female voice, but I could clearly make out that he is pacifying a woman who is now threatening to go and tattle to his wife. तो आपको मैं पैसे पहुंचा दूंगा, आप तो ऐसे ही मोहतरमा क्यों गर्म हो रही हैं, ये पता नहीं क्या करता रहा. And then I heard another conversation, very brief snatch of someone speaking in pure Brit accent, very clear, strength 5, and you're on a height, so it's line of sight into Pakistan, there's no problem. And I still remember, all right mate, look sharp, straighten up, all right, line abreast, very pure Brit accent. And I was wondering, where is this Brit accent? Much later I read up. उस वक्त तो मुझे समझ ही नहीं आया. मैंने कहा ये अंग्रेज आ गए लड़ने यार पाकिस्तानियों की तरफ से, ये कहाँ से हो गया शुरू. Much later I read a lot of these people, Pakis from the UK, were also part of this jihad. आते थे ना सर, so they were coming from all over. So must have been one of these. And a third incident was where we had an officer who joined us who could speak Arabic. He had grown up with his father was posted in the Middle East, so he could speak decent Arabic. तो ऐसे बैठे थे, उसको हमने बोला, मैंने कहा यार तू सेट पे अरबिक में बोलना शुरू कर दे कि मैं गिर गया हूँ और मुझे सपोर्ट चाहिए. Just go on the air, make a noise, let's see what happens. So he switched to Arabic and started saying, I'm surrounded, the army is surrounded, कुत्तों ने घेर लिया है, and I need support. And I was shocked to see how many stations opened up. That was their camaraderie, loose affiliations, but good fighting spirit they had. I don't know how many stations suddenly opened up. कहाँ brother किधर है, फिर somebody is asking someone, ये अरबी बोल रहा है, कोई अरबी वाला है, नहीं है, कोई बोल रहा है पश्तो ट्राई करो इसके साथ, कोई उर्दू बोल रहा है. They were getting desperate. हो कहाँ, location. Then finally, it was summed up and they realized location कुछ नहीं मिल रही. Then one final fanatic jumped in and said, शोर मचाना बंद करो, हथियार कॉक करो और लड़ो, शहादत का वक्त आ गया है, मत शोर मचाओ, लड़ो, शहादत के लिए आए थे ना, अब आ गया वक्त, ले जाओ कुत्तों को. But all I'm saying is one station that opened up and suddenly, तो उस जमाने में सर you could there was so much conversation happening around. If somebody wanted to talk to them, you could talk to them. I had some very nice conversations with some of them. I remember which I've said on another podcast, this chap used to take the report in the morning, chap called Mike Charlie. पाकिस्तानी पोस्ट पर बैठता था, मेरे ख्याल से लोसर 1 पे बैठता था. वो रिपोर्ट लेता था सुबह 8 बजे, कलमा होता था, कलमे के बाद फिर वो रोल कॉल लेता था, 1111, 111, 222, 333, शहशवाद, बुधवार, ये फिर अस्सलाम वालेकुम, वालेकुम सलाम, सब खैरियत होती थी. शाम को 5 बजे सनडाउन, फिर कलमा होता था, फिर रिपोर्ट ली जाती थी. तो आई हैड गॉन फॉर एन ऑपरेशन टू नेबाय विलेज. वहाँ झाड़ी वाड़ी जंगल से पहाड़ से फायर आया, हमने भी फायर किया, खत्म हो गया, अभी केम बैक. अभी ये रिपोर्ट जा रही है शाम को. अब वो बोल रहा है उसको माइक चाली, हाँ सलाम वालेकुम, कश्मीरी गाय. तो बोला सब खैरियत, बोला हाँ खैरियत है, बिल्कुल खैरियत है, लेकिन फौज की खैरियत नहीं है. बोला कि आज क्रैक डाउन हुआ, शुमरियाल गांव में क्रैक डाउन हुआ, फौज की नफरी आई, हमने फायर खोला तो बहुत घायल हुए, इनका हेलीकॉप्टर आया कैजुअलिटी उठाने के लिए. तो सो यू जस्ट आई एम अलाउइंग हिम, मैं बैठा बुखारी के पास बैठा, मैं कहा बेचारा रिपोर्ट देने दो यार, हर को रिपोर्ट डालो. व्हेन ही स्टार्टेड क्रॉसिंग, You know, he was getting carried away and embellishing it as he went along. ये तो ज्यादा हो गया ना यार, थोड़ा बहुत फायर वायर खुला ये कर, वो चलता है उतना. तो आई बटेड इन, अस्सलाम वालेकुम माइक चाली. बोलता फौजी भाई छोड़ दो, अभी रास्ता छोड़ दो, अभी रिपोर्ट ले रहा है. मैंने कहा माइक चाली बात तो सुन लो. बोलो क्या बोलना, जल्दी बोलो. मैंने कहा माइक चाली ये आपका कमांडर झूठ बोल रहा है, 111 जो भी है ये झूठ बोल रहा है. ये कोई कैजुअलिटी नहीं, कोई हेलीकॉप्टर नहीं आया. ये जो फायर किया इसने झाड़ी से, पहाड़ से, ये मेरे पे फायर किया, ये फायर करके भाग गया. अब ये इतनी लंबी कहानी आपको बता रहा है. तो आई थॉट ही से थैंक यू वेरी मच एंड बुलशिट द अदर गाय. ही टर्न्स अराउंड सेज, तो आप लोग भी तो यही करते हो. हमें मत सिखाओ. आप लोग क्या करते हो जनाब, बड़ी बड़ी रिपोर्टें बनाते हो, मेडल लेते हो, है ना. एक जालिम मुल्क के लिए आप लोग जो लड़ने आए हो, झूठ बोल के ऐसी जो रिपोर्टें आपकी जाती हैं पीछे, हमें नहीं पता जैसे क्या होता है. फिर मेडल लेते हो आप लोग, इतने मार दिए उतने मार दिए. कल क्या हुआ वो बताऊं. अनदर इंसिडेंट हैड हैपेंड विद मी व्हिच इज अ डिफरेंट इंसिडेंट. बोलता कल क्या हुआ वो बताऊं. तो आप रहने दो. अरे मैंने कहा माइक चाली मैं आपकी मदद कर रहा हूँ, इस तरीके से जिहाद नहीं चलेगा. जिहाद चलाना है तो आपको ऐसे लोग चाहिए जो काम कर रहे हैं. ये तो झूठ बोल रहे हैं ना, ये गलत. बोला आप रहने दो, चाहना छोड़ दो, आपको क्या लेना देना इससे. ऐसे कमाल है, सारे सब झूठ बोल रहे हैं. सब झूठ बोल रहे हैं. अब हाफ ऑफ देम यूज्ड टू गेट, तनख्वाह नहीं आती थी, इनकी तनख्वाहें आती थी, बर्फ पड़ जाती थी. ऑल काउंटरफीट मनी, बट इट यूज्ड टू कम फ्रॉम अक्रॉस. और तनख्वाह नहीं आती थी, फिर बेचारे शोर मचाते. कागज आने थे, कागज नहीं आए, बच्चे पालने हैं, कैसे होगा. ये पूरे दिन चलता रहता था, पूरे दिन चलता रहता था. तो some great conversations.
These conversations were when you were in the Rajouri sector?
सर वो जो मैं पहले बताई वो रजौरी की हैं, ये लोलाब की हैं.
ओके,
ये लोलाब की हैं.
इनफैक्ट जो रजौरी सेक्टर की जो आपने बताई, इनफैक्ट just to give the idea, I was posted in this Jarnawali Gadi.
Right.
You know, from Jarnawali Gadi you go to the Soran Port. Just
Correct.
5 kilometers short of that.
Correct.
Pass is there, Gali.
Correct.
Okay. So I was on those two hill feature, right side Gajna Hill and left side Sastar Hill.
Right.
And there is a wildlife detachment there. So I was the OC there. So these all conversation I used to hear. We used to record hundreds of cassettes every day, which we used to send.
सर आपके पास तो सबसे ज्यादा खबर होगी.
हाँ,
वो तो पूरे अंदर पाकिस्तान के अंदर से पकड़ रहे होंगे सब कुछ. दो huge.
Yes,
huge violence.
200 cassettes every day we would record.
Correct.
And ये जो all conversation है, जो मतम्मा वाले और ये सारे, वो सब क्योंकि उस टाइम क्या है, सब अनक्रिप्टेड होता था.
करेक्ट.
क्रिप्टेड में कुछ नहीं होता था. और वो आपका कोई भी एक बल्क आपने चैनल पकड़ लिया और वो पीएनटी के चैनल पे बात करते थे, तो then you can hear everything.
हाँ, ये अब आप बता रहे हैं, मैंने आज तक नहीं पता था कैसे मेरे उस पे कॉन्वर्सेशन आ गई. आई डोंट नो.
वो क्या होता है ना, जो कुछ हार्मोनिक्स यदि आपके उस फ्रीक्वेंसी से मैच करके, जिस फ्रीक्वेंसी में आपने अपना रेडियो ट्यून किया हुआ है, तो आप सुन लोगे. तो बिकॉज हर कन्वर्जेशन के कुछ फ्रीक्वेंसीज होती हैं जो हार्मोनिक्स होते हैं और उस पे भी वो आपको इंटरसेप्ट हो गया, तो यू गॉट इट.
अरे सर, मतलब आपको जस्ट टू गिव यू एन एग्जांपल ऑफ हाउ मच एयर वेव ट्रैफिक देयर वाज इन द लुलाब. आप टीवी देख रहे होते थे और वो उस जमाने में बेवॉच आती थी, बड़ी ईगरली आदमी वेट करता था वो पैमेला एंडरसन को देख के. वो सडनली उसमें वो वालेकुम सलाम, सलाम वालेकुम, खैरियत. अरे सर पकड़ लिया लोगों ने यार, पिक्चर तो देखने दो यार. इसके अंदर भी टीवी पकड़ लेती थी. I don't know how it works, I don't know, but I've heard it coming out of a television, this conversation.
Because they all are talking in the plane, and आपका भी सिस्टम उस टाइम मींस वो रेडियो हैंडसेट ही होंगे. तो
नहीं सर, वो तो लेकिन टीवी से आ रहा है.
हाँ, वो तो टीवी में भी वो वॉइस तो उसी फ्रीक्वेंसी पे ना थी. वही अगेन हार्मोनिक्स कुछ मैच करके आपके रिसीवर से, तो आपने सुनना शुरू कर दिया. बस वो सिंपल मतलब कोई फ्रीक्वेंसी है, उसका मल्टीप्लाई होके या उसका डिवीजन होके वो कोई फ्रीक्वेंसी बनके और वो आपके कोई भी रिसीवर उसमें आ जाती है, तो यू कैन लिसन टू दैट. इनफैक्ट रेडियो पाकिस्तान एंड ऑल यू कैन लिसन समटाइम इन योर टीवी आल्सो. So that is a good experience. In fact, I also had such experiences, and you rightly brought out. तो इसका मतलब आपके भी जो रेडियो थे वो totally encrypted थे. You can easily enter it, and they can also easily enter it.
I'm sure they were listening.
Yeah.
If they wanted to, they could.
Yeah. Good, good. After this, then you decided at your own this thing with the JNK tenure that बहुत हो गया चलो अभी.
हाँ सर, मतलब I was maybe the second officer to join this RR when they were collecting. We were raised at Ayodhya, Dogra Center. I was the second officer, maybe the first officer to report there, and I was the last officer to leave.
Okay.
पूरा एक entire lot of men had changed. Everybody had been posted out. I was the last man left standing in Lolab Valley with a new bunch of men. तो मेरी तो पीठ खराब हो गई थी. तो बाद में मैंने हथियार कैरी करना छोड़ दिया. वो जो सरेंडर्ड मिलिटेंट था सलीम, उसको हथियार दिया हुआ था मैंने, और वो अंग्रेजी ऑफिसर की तरह मैं छड़ी लेके बैक हाथ स्टार्ट पे नहीं, छड़ी लेके मैं आगे आगे चलता था. और मैंने कहा आप सलीम पीछे चलिएगा, फायर खुलेगा तो जैसे अंग्रेज ऑफिसर शिकार पे जाते थे ना, बंदूक दीजिए. हमने कहा आपसे पूछेंगे, हमें आप बंदूक दीजिएगा फिर हम फायर करेंगे. अभी हम राजा की तरह लड़ाई करेंगे, हमारा हो गया टाइम खत्म अभी लड़ाई करने का. तो मुझे चिट्ठियां आई, पलटन से चिट्ठियां आई कि सुना सर शराब बहुत पी रहे हो, और सुना ये नई चीज कुछ शुरू कर रखी है आपने कि हथियार भी आपने दे रखा है सलीम को, तो यो तो ठीक ना कर रहे हो आप, है. But the poor guys were concerned, you know, they were keeping in touch. So मैंने कहा यार ये तो बात सच है कि अभी तो ड्रिंक भी पी जा रही है और हथियार भी सलीम लेके कैरी करते हैं. हम तो अब ऑन रिक्वेस्ट फाइट करेंगे. आप लड़ाई करनी है आप रिक्वेस्ट करिए, हम जाएंगे आपसे लड़ेंगे, क्योंकि हमने बहुत टाइम निकाल लिया है यहाँ पे. हमारे 3.5 साल होने को आ रहे हैं. I have operated across the bloody valley, across the valley. I don't know how many locations I changed. The maximum number of time I spent in Lulab, but Marwan, Badarwa, Doda, South Kashmir briefly, Lulab, Rajouri became very tiring.
आपका एक कंटेम्प्रेरी भी होता था ना उस टाइम में. I believe he was in 9 para Major Dhaliwal or what?
नहीं सर, धालीवाल था सर, धालीवाल भी था.
हाँ,
Dhali is junior to me, but Dhali was there.
Junior to you.
Dhali was there.
Yeah.
So Sudhir Walia was there.
No, so Walia. In fact, Walia, you had some.
Walia was a friend. Walia was a friend, sir.
Yeah.
Walia was a friend. Walia was operating in the valley. So this guy Jasrotia, cosmate, who also died, Ashok Chakra.
Ashok Chakra.
Jassi was my cosmate. He was operating in the valley. Yeah. 9 तो वहीं बैठी थी सर. 9 तो काफी सालों से ऑपरेट कर रही थी.
Yeah. Walia also, I think, posthumously given Ashok Chakra.
Of course, sir. Walia was also Sena Medal bar.
Yeah.
And Ashok Chakra. So Walia was there. I never operated with him, but you know, it's a small area. Lulab, hunting ground एक ही था.
Yeah.
लुलाब राजवाड़े तो आप पहुंचिए तो आपको टीमें दिखेंगी घूमती हुई. कभी आप डिफ हेडक्वार्टर में मिलोगे उनको, लाइन की बैठी हुई है. They were all friends. Everybody is operating. Competition था, बड़ा अच्छा हेल्दी कंपटीशन था कि कौन ज्यादा मारेगा, कितने मिलेंगे. You know, everything. उस जमाने पैसे भी मिलते थे. फॉरेन मिलिटेंट मारो तो 20,000 रुपए मिलते थे. So I remember, you know, Walia telling me or somebody कि यार एक और मारना है तो फिर एक टीवी आ जाएगी लड़कों के लिए ना, टीम में टीवी लगानी है तो एक और बंदा चाहिए. अभी बता यार सप्रू कहाँ मारना है यार, एक 20,000 और चाहिए. मतलब you know, it was a very healthy competition between, but those are different days.
It's altogether different life.
It is very difficult for people who haven't gone through that phase to even understand what kind of militancy it was. It was on a very different level. And I've gone to Kashmir ever since. Every year I go for skiing. I've been going skiing every year. 15 साल से जा रहा हूँ. अब आप देखिए, I mean, you tend to forget the amount of effort, toil, blood which the Indian Army has given to keep that piece of land in. नहीं तो, I remember before we went into Lulab, before the army went into Lulab, मेरे आने से मेरे ख्याल से कुछ महीने पहले ही आर्मी ने क्लीन किया था. आर्मी मींस इन्फेंट्री यूनिट मस्ट हैव बीन सेंट. तो वहां पे बोर्ड लगा हुआ था, पाकिस्तानी प्रॉपर्टी, ऐसे करके उस जमाने में ये हाल था. I I had jawans, as I told you, who joined from Jackalai battalions. मैं उनसे बात करता था कि यार 89, 90 में क्या हाल था, 91, 92 में क्या हाल था. मैं तो 95 में गया. बोला साहब, one of them tells me, तराल का था. One of them tells me that छुट्टी आया, मैं खेत में था, तो जंगल से उतरे 5-6. उस जमाने में you have to imagine फौज थी नहीं. The army had, or the government had still to realize how large and enormous the problem they were facing. So the army had not been deployed to that extent. बोला वो जंगल से उतरे 5-6, सामने उनके एक छड़ी लेके चल रहे थे. आए, बातचीत करी मुझसे, तो बोला फौजी हो? बोला हाँ साहब फौजी है. कौन सी पलटन के हो? सो एंड सो जैकले. अच्छा अच्छा, छुट्टी आए हो? सब ठीक ठाक है? पाकिस्तानी ऑफिसर. मैंने कहता सर पाकिस्तानी ऑफिसर. बिल्कुल अफसर की तरह बात करी. छुट्टी ठीक है, पे मिल रही है, खाना मिल रहा है, कोई दिक्कत तो नहीं है. इधर उधर बात करी. फिर क्या, मैं दौरे पे आया, मैं ऑना कर रहा हूँ, दौरे पे निकले हैं. तो उस जमाने में तो एलसी इतना खुला हुआ था, खच्चर पे आता था सामान, भर भर के खच्चर पे लेके आते थे अक्रॉस. सो इट टुक अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम before people got a grip on it, got a grip on the LC. अभी भी देखिए इतने करने के बाद भी वो आ गए 4-5. आप उस जमाने में सोचिए क्या 20-20, 25-25 की नफरी आती थी, एक साथ क्रॉस करती थी. By the time I came, they were down to about 5 to 10 people infiltrating. Now it's become extremely tough, but those were different days.
Right. In fact, 91, 92, I was there in this Suranpur sector. इतना नहीं था, but the moment I moved out to my post graduation to IIT Kanpur, उसके बाद then I heard that that area became a too much militancy prone and many incidents took place. In fact, in my detachment also one officer lost life because हमारा क्या है ना, that bag with the cassette used to go every day. Front court post office था, field post office. वो detachment जब गजना से जाता था और वहीं से लेके आते थे. So during that transit,
हाँ, वो easy target. Easy target to ambush.
That I came to know when I was doing my post. So Abhay, उसके बाद में आप I think you went to the training school, para training school in Bangalore.
Correct, sir. So my last posting was at the parachute training center as an instructor.
That must be the time to share your all experiences with your trainees.
Sir, अभी मैं पलटन गया था रेजिंग डे के लिए. And you know the JCOs are lined up to meet the officers. And one of them came up and said, there are 17 of us you sent. When you were the company commander, there were 17 of us. There were 20 you sent. 17 are in this unit. And I shook hands with all of them. I said, I remember 4-5 of you. How did the rest of you, उन 4-5 का तो मैंने नाम निकाल के अलग से मैंने कहा तुम मेरी पलटन में जाओगे, because they were genuinely very good. मैंने कहा 5-6 तो मुझे याद है वो मेरी कंपनी के थे. बाकी बोला बाकी सर वो हीरो वर्शिप में वो होता है ना, वो बच्चे हैं, उन्हें देखा कि यार ये कौन सी पलटन का है, 17 आए. 17 आए. मैंने कहा I felt very happy. ऐसे चलिए 17 तो दिए.
That is again a part of the trust and the influence you carry on your jawans.
तो उसके बाद मेरी वो आ गई सर. I put in my papers, third application. My father had landed up with cancer, and I said, look, I need to go now. I need to look after the colonel. And then they left me, and I got a job immediately. I was lucky enough to get a job. कोई guidance नहीं थी, कोई कुछ training नहीं थी, कुछ नहीं पता था. But I was lucky enough. I ran into an Irishman, and he had a lot of time for defense forces. And he said, there's no reason why you won't do well. So it was a real estate brokerage firm, now very big, called JLL, Jones Lang LaSalle. And he sent me to Singapore University to do a course in real estate. So फिर वो लाइन हो गई. उसके बाद से बारी है सर.
Your parents there in Dehradun?
नहीं sir, they died years ago.
Mother as well?
Mother also. Years ago.
You must be missing them.
Sir, people don't understand the sacrifice some of the parents make when they send their children to the army. I remember my mother went through her marriage with my father going for 62, 65 and 71, 3 wars. And one of the reasons that, she didn't want me to join also was one of these. So, can you see me, sir? Hello.
You have record?
Sir, I don't know what is happening, but battery low ho rahi hai thodi si,
we just wind up now.
So I remember coming back from Sri Lanka, and at that stage she used to have a drink in the evening. And I asked my father, and she says, she had to have a drink. She can't sleep otherwise. She's just worrying every day because information keeps coming in. Somebody's dead, somebody's blown up.
Sri Lanka was a very bad time. I know.
That time, this is the only way she sleeps. So I can quite imagine now at this age. Now I look back and I realize, yes, must have been very tough for her.
Yeah, absolutely. For mother, even for the parents.
Parents, not easy.
Not easy. You thereafter, where the last thing which you are doing, a wonderful thing to help people, being an author and giving this perspective of life as a special forces. How did this happen?
Sir, I used to write about the incidents that I was involved in, big, small, anything, on scraps of paper, sitting in ambush under lamp lights in the tent, and I just then send it to my father for reading. That's how the first writing bit happened. So hopefully the short stories will come out. And then the first book, of course, came out. I was hitting a camp. And I say all this in my preface to the book. I was hitting a camp. And we climbed the whole night, a place called Khobal Margi. And it rained. And in the morning it cleared up. And I was sitting there chewing on a puri. And I looked across and I saw a range of very high mountains. And there was one of them which was head and shoulders above. So I was wondering, Shamshabadi mein baraf kaise, Peer Panjal to nahi hai. I was consulting my map, north kaun sa, south kaun sa, when the Gujjar guide along with me leaned over. He said, "Sahab, wo nakshe mein nahi milega. Wo Nanga Parvat hai, Kilgit." And at that stage, I just wondered. I allowed my soul to sort of soar across, and couldn't have been more than 100 miles as the crow flies. And I said, it would be nice to just walk across. Things have been more peaceful, to see Gulgate, Swat, Hunza, like the old Englishmen could do. And I wondered at that time, what sort of men were these so-called Mujahideen? Were they romantics? Were they adventurers like some of us are? And at that stage, I had this very strong urge to capture in a tale the entire dramatis personae involved in the so-called Jihad Kashmir, the population, the army, and the Mujahideen. So if you read the first book, you'll see a point of view of all of them. The Mujahideen's point of view, you'll see. And, the protagonist is a real guy, Sher Khan. He was there. I used to speak to him often. And he was shot. So I just spun a little tale. All 3 books, by and large, are 80 to 90% true. But I spin a little tale around so that it becomes interesting as a story.
Yeah.
But it gives you a fair idea of how we lived, fought, thought in those days. I mean, soldiering has changed in the subcontinent, not too much. There's better gear, but jungle to wahi hai. Second kitab to aise aayi, sir. I did a short story, an article sort of a thing. And then it struck me that, my father was there training. I went to Sri Lanka. I saw these guys coming home. And here was a story to tell. And my experiences in Sri Lanka and hitting a camp there and stuff like that. So the second one came about. The third, I was hoping to go to the Northeast. And then I was going through my diary. And out fell a very old, faded article of a incident that I was involved in there was a vendetta being played out in the Doda Hills between a chap called RK, Hindu chap, a Muslim Hizbul Mujahideen commander, Mansoor Ahmed. Both were neighbors, classmates, grew up together, joined the BSF together, served together. One ran away with a light machine gun and became a militant leader.
Oh.
The other stayed in the BSF. This chap tried to convert him and ask him to join the gang, Mansoor Ahmed. And then in the bargain, there were some problems. He beat up his father, and he killed so-and-so, he killed so-and-so. When I came into the scene, the SP police called him out of the jail to be my guy. I asked the SP, कुछ खबर वर दे जनाब. बोला हाँ है, मेरे पास लड़का है. निकाला, जेल में बैठा हुआ था. मैं क्या करा इनने जो जेल में डाला है? I thought वो कुछ चोरी वोरी करी होगी, कुछ करा होगा. बोला मल्टीपल मर्डर्स. मैं कहा यार ये मल्टीपल मर्डर वाले को दे रहे हो? हाँ, और मैंने कहा हथियार देना है इसको. बोला हाँ दे दीजिए, कोई दिक्कत नहीं. और मैं कहा भाग गया साला ये. अरे बोला कुछ नहीं था, तोते की तरह है, अभी खोलूंगा ये वापस आ जाएगा. काम करता है, मेरा ही काम करता है. And then I got to know the story from this boy and this little vendetta. And then we were involved at a later stage in an operation in the Varwan when 6 foreigners were captured by a group called the Al-Faran, Pakistani group which they had formed.
Yes.
One of them escaped, the American escaped. One was beheaded and his body was found in Tehelka with Al-Faran written here. And 4 of them disappeared, never found. So we were briefly involved and landed in Varwan to conduct an operation. There was information they were sitting right ahead at the tip of the Surkholi Jagati, Gautha. So we managed to capture one and kill one. So I just put the little tale together. They were lovely 2 experiences. And so the third one also came out on Kashmir. Though the plan was to come out on my experiences in the Northeast. So अब देखिए 3 तो हैं, अच्छी किताबें हैं, people have enjoyed it. I would recommend your listeners and viewers, if they're interested in a fast-paced combat novel, the reviews are good, and it'll give them a fair idea of how special force soldiering was done in those days.
Yes, what Abhay is talking about, 3 books of his, that in the Valley of Shadows. Again, it's from the Kashmir, then the Beckoning of Isle, Mother Book, then Savage Hills. All 3 are combat novels, and you may like to go through them. It's wonderful, best-selling books. Abhay, that.
So the battery may die. The battery may die. So I'm just warning you.
Yeah. So Abhay, finally, just to wind up what would you like to tell this youngster who are having a craze for getting the maroon beret? Just in a nutshell.
Sir, all I can say is something which I was told by the current commanding officer and the 2IC when I went to the unit. When I asked them what is the response to people joining, the response has gone up. However, there is an issue with the ability to take sustained punishment. So this is a reflection of the generation today. Everything should be immediate, quick.
Yes.
Consistency is something which is being forgotten in this. Sometimes you have to take the punishment and you have to be consistent. So this thing is, if you're passionate about something, then you need to put your head down and keep at it.
Yes.
And unless you're extremely unlucky, you will get what you want. It's not an impossible dream to be wearing a maroon beret. But don't expect quick results. And clearing the probation is one part. It gets tougher. So you may clear the probation, but be prepared. It's going to be a tough life. Yeah. So it's 100% commitment.
Yeah.
It's a way of life.
Yes.
And there is no reason why you should serve 20 years. There are a whole bunch of us who left early. We were very clear we are there for our adventure, for our romance, for our excitement. And so if that is what you're looking at, purity of soldiering, by all means, go for it. And if you feel you had enough, by all means, step out. It's a big world outside, and we all survived and we did well. And what SF will teach you, I can assure you you'll do well in any other profession outside.
Absolutely.
There is no problem. The teaching will be well worth it. But if you need to get in, well, there should be only one dream. That's it. And you have to work towards it. It'll happen.
True, Abhay. In fact, what you rightly said, that consistency is the key. Consistency is the key, and it pays in the life. And that is what the Special Forces is all about. And said that it's a life's learning. Means if you can do well in the Special Forces, no matter what outside also, you will be the richer man, you will be the fantastic man, you will lead the life wonderfully. And I have seen all of them, whoever I have interacted, they are doing extremely well compared to their other fellows outside.
Sir, मैं तो कंपनियां बेच दी लोगों ने.
Yes.
millionaires.
The company बेच भी दे और कंपनियां रन कर रहे हैं सर.
कंपनियां रन कर रहे हैं सर.
They are running the companies and beautifully they are running because they know how to handle the man.
Yeah, so they know how to handle the situation.
Yes, situations and the man. Yes.
You can't put him down easily. What he's gone through.
Yes.
You can't put him down easily.
Yes.
And he's learned how the wind blows. His adaptability is much faster. He's quick on the uptake. It teaches you a lot of things.
Absolutely.
It's a great profession to be in.
In fact, I must say in a nutshell, he teaches you how to live life. Basically.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Abhay, so wonderful conversation. You, in fact, I learned many things. So my viewers must have learned many things from your conversation. And thank you very much that you've given so much of time and for my viewers and for myself.
It's a pleasure, sir. Thank you very much for getting me on your podcast. I hope people enjoy it. Thank you again. Stay fit, stay well, sir.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure not only like it, they must have benefited from this conversation. And the many more after that who will listen to it, they will get benefited. Once again, so thank you very much, Abhay.
Bye-bye, sir.